Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we are doing another King Kong figure comparison with all of these various King Kong figures that you see right in front of you, including Playmates' 2005 Kong, that one's Peter Jackson, the Kong Skull Island Kong from Playmates, specifically the Classic Series line, the 2017 I'm getting my Kongs mixed up. I'm looking at one Kong while introducing the next. The 2021 Kong with Battle Axe Kong with battle damage as well from Playmates. The Mezco's King Kong of Skull Island and the NECA King Kong original release. So, if you guys don't know, this is actually a follow-up video to a video I made roughly about 1 to 2 years ago, closing in on 2 years ago, where we specifically pit everyone but him up against each other. And from the results of that video, he basically won the whole thing, but these three were pretty close. So I decided to why not make that video again, but throw him and his repaints into the mix. Here's how we're doing this though. His repaints are not going to be directly part of this video. Why? Because I feel as if we constantly flip back and forth between him and having that's 3 of him plus himself, plus these Kongs, that's going to be 8 different Kongs in one comparison video. And given how similar the Kongs are, compared to each other, it's just way too similar. Yeah, you could argue that because these guys are all from the same company, yeah, they're relatively similar, but they're all completely different sculpts. He is not. All of the Kongs from the NECA line are completely similar. So, for the time being, we are going to be using just him primarily, while also mentioning the original ones, which may or may not change out the verdict. So with that being said, we're going to be dividing this up into another 7-rounder, I think it is. Sculpt and paint, articulation, size, accessories, price, availability, and packaging. So with that being said, let's go ahead and do round 1. So for sculpt and paint, I know, you're probably going to say, oh, but this is going to play out exactly like last time. Here's the thing about last time. I feel like I was not giving these guys enough of a fair shot, and I was being a little bit biased towards the Mezco because he was like my closest or one of my most recent purchases of that time. And now that I have the NECA, which I only just got right before Christmas, and then at Christmas I got 2 NECA King Kongs, by the way, I've had enough time to really sink in my thoughts about all 5, so let's go ahead and briefly cover them all. And as in briefly, I mean really briefly. So, the 2005 Playmates Peter Jackson Kong is made of a solid black kind of charcoal-like plastic with some very nice gray dry brushing over top and nicely done red kind of slash marks on it, which gives it a much more roughed up, dirty look. The teeth are probably one of the best things that are painted on this because they got like some natural transition, kind of dry brushing on there. The eyes look really well painted too. However, the claw marks are a bit hit and miss. Here, they're actually painted pretty well, but then you directly get to here, and because they're just slapped on there, not actually sculpted in, the consistency of it is a bit awkward. Like, for example, here, you have these great slash marks. They're actually painted in there. Meanwhile, you get to the arm, and it's just kind of there. So, not exactly the best quality of paint, but it definitely gets the job done. Also, because of how old it is, it's definitely got, again, a much more roughed up, dirty look, which I guess you can kind of blame on longevity. But again, it has a pretty dang nice look overall to it. The 2017 Kong Skull Island figure has a bit more of a different type of look to it. It's kind of much more softer details in comparison to its rivals, but makes up for it with its coloring. See, the face is actually kind of much more darker in comparison to the other Kongs, and its eyes are much more vibrant, giving it like a nice contrast, like the eyes really pop. Kind of mimicking his old posters where it was like really darkly lit, but you could still see his eyes clear as day. The kind of black to gray spray is really nice with the scars kind of painted on there. Not really sculpted in, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Let's see, we got some nice spray on the wrists right here and here, kind of where the palms are, and kind of where the toes are. And aside from that, that is kind of it. If I remember correctly, this uses the mold from the Leonard con that was released like a few years back. And yeah, it does. I think it does reuse this mold. I can't quite tell for sure, but for what is here, it's pretty well done with the nice kind of different materials and stuff used, and the details fairly nice for what it is. The Godzilla vs. Kong, specifically the battle axe version, has a lot more going for it. It has again a kind of a much more darker face. This time it's just kind of pure black to the kind of I guess the brown fur on the sides of it, and it looks very nice with kind of like the spray going from the face to the body itself. But again, much like the Kong Skull Island figure, it has orange eyes, but they're not as vibrant. But he does have the open mouth, which is a nice addition, and his teeth are not really painted all that great. I mean, they're kind of one just solid color, but again, for the price point, which we'll get into that moment, it's pretty good. Tongue looks very simplistic, and the gums kind of just brown, same color as the plastic. But again, it's not bad considering the price point, which again, we'll go back to that. But I think what really steals the show is not really the spray that's used on the man boobs, nor the feet or the palms, but it's actually the dry brushing. You could tell that this is probably the best dry brushing of all the Playmates Kongs used, specifically on the shoulders too. Not much of it on the body, but there's a lot of it on the legs. But if we go into the back, it doesn't really carry much of the dry brushing, because I mean, it's just kind of blank detail. But again, what the detail is here is really well done, and it's surprisingly really great, and especially like, again, imagine again, the price point, solid black feet, bottom, and it's just overall a really nice looking figure overall. So being a little bit more unbiased in this video, you can definitely tell that Mezco went all out with the detail work. I mean, it's much more defined than any of the Playmates Kongs are, and it also continues that mild dry brushing that's found throughout the body. I will say that, ow, I think I just stabbed myself on that little tiny spike of fur. Oh, that was weird. You see that? Yeah, even Kong fur can still hurt. Sounds weird to say. Fur can hurt you. But yeah, okay, that is a pretty damn cool shot right there. But yeah, Kong himself, his eyes are painted really well, wonderfully. You got like some nice gray transition to the brown used on the body, and it's just mixed in with a mild dry brushing of different browns and grays to really bring out more of that highlighted detail and such. The bottom of the feet are kind of black, gray, kind of blackish. Same with like the face, the chest, and the face, the chest, and the palms, more specifically. And it also uses like a lot of what do you say? Again, much more dry brushing, painted details. So it has a lot of that going for it. Not to mention it's very stylized, it's based on the book. And this one is probably the one you guys have been waiting for, the Mezco, sorry, not Mezco, NECA King Kong, which uses a bunch of different details more similar to the Mezco, but instead of scars, it actually has freshly cut wounds. Like, look at this. It looks like flat out blood, doesn't it? And it's actually painted and sculpted really damn well. The fur detail, again, it's kind of mixed in with like a lot of grays. I will say it's a bit inconsistent. Like, I think I would have rather had the grays like more sporadic and how it is here, more towards the fists, the face, the man boobs, and the feet. But for what it is, it's surprisingly well detailed. And honestly, again, for the price point, which we will allude back to that, it's really well done. And honestly, especially the jaw paint right here, like all the mouth stuff, teeth are really well painted. Tongue is surprisingly really well painted with some nice purples in there, gums, kind of dark reds. Everything's just kind of thrown together really well. So when it's all said and done for sculpt and paint, you really got your mileage varied. But I think at the end of the day, the winner for this round has to be either one of these two. I'm going to leave it to a tie, but these ones to honorable mentions. So they both get a tie point. They don't. All right, round two. This is 4 fingers. Round two. There you go. Articulation. So usually when I would pose or do the articulation, I'd actually demonstrate it on camera and, so on and so forth. Not going to happen with this. because of how much Kongs there are on this thing, and you know, time and whatnot, it doesn't seem worth it for me to just go ahead and analyze everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what the figures do have in common with each other, what they have exclusively, and what they don't have in common with each other. So let's go ahead and kind of analyze this. So all 5 figures that you see on the screen can move their heads from side to side, as they all have a swivel-like motion. The Playmates 2017 Kong Skull Island, the Mezco's King Kong of Skull Island, and the NECA King Kong all have different style of joints where it's not just a basic swivel, so that allows them to move up, down, and actually twist to the sides. And debatably, again, you know, they are kind of on barbell styles. He's on a flat out hinge, and these two are on barbell style ball joints. Let's see. All of them have shoulder movement, with him being the only one of all 4 not to have additional joints in the shoulders or the arms in general. All of them have some sort of swivel hinge combo, with his being the least ranged, but he makes up for that by having an elbow hinge. All these guys have an elbow hinge. Well, specifically these 3. He doesn't have anything, so we're just going to exclude him for the rest of the arm round. But the difference between these 3 and him is that these 3 can rotate their shoulders. Sorry, their elbows. He can't. All 4 of them can rotate their wrists, and he has clenched in fingers, which allow him to go like on a hinge. These 2 have ball joints at the shoulders. Well, wrists, I mean. At least I think it's... No, he has swivel hinge, but I mean, it's ball joint, yes. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. All 3 of the Playmates Kongs do not have any, sort of waist movement, but these 2 have plenty of good waist movement, having a barbell-style ball joint that allows them to go up, down, twist side to side, lean side to side, and whatnot. All 5 of them have a rotation at the hips. He actually is the least range, which this is the only time I'm going to do this, as if you pull it in like that, that's its limit here, and that's its limit there. So you can't really get a 360, so it's very limited, even if you want to just count it as a basic rotation. While everyone else is pretty much almost unlimited. Everyone else has like a swivel hinge joint to them, except with the exception of him. He has flat out ball joints. Everyone else has swivel hinge combos, except he has like a funky system. He has like his his thigh connected into a ball peg that plugs into the body. So technically it has 2 joints that can rotate in and out. But still, either one has the ability to do so. All 4 of them, not counting Kong Skull Island, has a hinge at the knee, which allows him to go back and forth, when these 2 having a swivel kind of ball joint-esque movement. And these 2 surprisingly lose out on the feet. He has foot articulation that allows it to go side to side. He has foot articulation that's on a ball joint, and he has feet articulation that are awkwardly pegged in, but going at an angle, but allows him to kind of like spread out his legs and kind of get a more dynamic stance out of Kong. So overall, that's kind of like a really great way to kind of show off the posability. So now that we've gotten over pretty much the articulation segment, who wins in what category? So, pros and cons. Him. Pros, he's definitely well articulated, at least for what he is. But the problem is that his articulation isn't what is really selling the figure. We'll get into it in a sec, but the articulation is really what seems to be a much more of a second thought. And as a result of this, his range isn't as good as it could be. See these arms? Yeah, you heard that click, and we'll get that into a sec. But this is literally all he can do. The elbow range isn't great. The wrist swivels are just they're swivels. And the clenched in fingers just kind of look awkward. Like, what is he trying to do? So, yeah. Also, the leg articulation is decently ranged. I mean, it's nothing too bad. It's nothing too great. But for what it is, it's fine. It has a lot of segments. So, there you go. Kong Skull Island has the right ideas. It's very Bandai Vinyl-esque, featuring, again, very moved Very great head articulation, and actually matches that of the NECA and Mezco in head range and foot swivels. But that's only 3 joints total compared to how much joints they have. The only other possibility he has are these shoulder swivels and these limited leg swivels. Newsflash, that's not going to win him any points. So, unfortunately, he has a lot of cons to him. He is basically the most well balanced of all the Playmates Kongs. And I just heard my dryer go off. Yeah. Good head articulation, shoulders great, elbows great, wrist great, and pretty much has everything except for waist and feet articulation. I can't really put any cons on it, because again, it's very well posable. If I had to put one con in, maybe I would have liked the more decent head swivel, because I mean, it can swivel alright, but it doesn't have much range like to look up and down, which is something Kong would be doing if he's looking up at a bigger kaiju, aka Godzilla, or Mecha Godzilla. Just realized my camera went blurry. There we go. Mezco pretty much has... would I really say you have any flaws? No. You're fairly solid. You're very well articulated. I will say it's a bit stiff, but with time, you can loosen it up a bit. But I will say, like, the knee range doesn't really have any merit to it, and the feet, honestly, take it or leave it. They're really limited. Like, they don't even have any real swivel to them. Hold on. Yeah, like, pushing it, this is really it. And despite the fact they are connected, I was about to pop it, connected on ball joints. NECA is pretty much the only pure perfect Kong. It has everything that you need from a Kong figure, minus the jaw articulation, but that has future repaint that would have allowed that. So pretty much it has everything you need. Shoulders, wrists, hips, waist, feet, head, elbows, shoulders. I think I already said shoulders. Knees. Again, now I'm just repeating body parts. It has everything you need. It really does. Has nothing really of bad merit to it. So if I had to go ahead and select a Kong figure to win this point, it would actually go to the NECA. Again, he was really close if he had more posability. And if he had like better head articulation and feet posability, he would probably either tie Mezco or win the point against NECA, maybe. But either way, point goes to the NECA. Round 3. Again, this is 6, 3, 3. There you go. Is going to be size. Size is a bit of a weird thing to tackle because I really went analytically with the size. And I'm going to go kind of the same thing, except I'm not going to be very nitpicky. In that review, I specifically said that he was probably the most well-sized. But fundamentally, all but the NECA, we'll get to the NECA, are all the same height. 6 inches. Now, I know, he's a bit smaller than the rest. I mean, if you look at him versus him, again, it's an apparent difference that he is, in fact, the bigger one compared to him. And these two are about, I'm looking at it now, similar in height. Kind of looks like he's bigger, but not really by much, if he is. But it's so similar. Really, you can't decipher an actual winner unless there was like an inch or so in difference in size. The NECA is a very special case because even though 6-inch figures are kind of the standard norm nowadays, the NECA is 8 inches, which a lot of people were kind of concerned as to why they would make it 8 inches, despite the fact that their previously made Godzilla figure line was a 6-inch to 7-inch figure line. Why would they make an 8-inch Kong from the same company, the same manufacturers, as the 6 to 7-inch Godzilla line? Well, simple. Kong was in his own line entirely. In fact, it's part of NECA's Ultimate figure line, which all of their figures, at least in that line to my knowledge, are about 8 inches tall. Godzilla was never part of the Ultimate line. He had Ultimate style packaging, but he was never part of the Ultimate line. He was part of his own brand entirely. So, yeah, that's part of the reason why Kong here is much bigger than the Godzillas were. In fact, just to give a better idea as to what I'm talking about, here is some of the biggest, popularity-wise, Godzilla figures from the 6-inch figure companies. You know, the big ones. Like, for example, here we have Playmates' new Toho series, Godzilla 2016 from Shin Godzilla, and NECA's first ever Godzilla figure ever made, the NECA Godzilla 2014, which both of them stand about the same height at about 6 or 7 inches. And as you can see, kind of moving Godzilla closer, he definitely scales well with all the 6-inch Kongs, but not so much his NECA counterpart. You see? He's like way too big. As for him, again, he scales pretty well with everyone here. Because Godzilla is naturally supposed to be the taller one of the two, this all makes sense. Mezco is about the same height and size as the NECA Godzilla, so if you want like a perfectly even, toe-to-toe, fist and cuffs Godzilla versus Kong stop motion fight, both at the same height, this is the perfect way to go. Purchase these two, you're golden. Glory. As for the NECA, let's see. I can bring in two other examples. Let's move these two out of the way. Where am I going to put them? I just realized. I'll just put them on my lap. Here we have the Bandai Godzilla 2000 from Bandai America or Bandai Creations, and the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2001, which, as you can see, both of them, again, they're rather much larger 6-inch figures, but the Monster Arts is, I think, one of the more taller Monster Arts Godzilla figures, if I'm not mistaken, right behind Shin Godzilla, Phileas, and Ultima. But surprisingly, he is almost there. He is really almost there. But compared to things like Mezco, again, he fits well. Playmates, the Playmates Kongs, he fits well with. So, realistically, it's all down to your personal preference as to how you conceive things. Again, I'll do the same thing here. I'll do it briefly with him because he was in the last video. So, here we have him up here. I swear, if this makes this part the thumbnail, I'm gonna laugh. Because he was in the thumbnails as well, so. Yeah. In your personal preference, it all that comes down to you in terms of overall size, but if you want, and I'm talking about general consensus here, if you want a Kong that stands shoulder to shoulder with your Godzilla and other kaiju figures that are 6 inches tall, because that is the most manufactured and most popular line, these 4 figures you see to the left, those are the way to go. Sorry, NECA Kong, even though we can fudge you to be 6 inches, you look really hunched, and you don't scale well with Godzilla stuff, aside from 2003. So, yeah, these 4 are getting the point. Accessories. Now, hold the phone. You might notice that this says Part 4. Yet Part 3 hasn't released in like over a year. I'm going to be completely honest, I completely forgot I had this video even like produced. Like, I produced it like halfway, and now we got like 5 Kong figures we're going to be taking a look at here. So just to reiterate, Playmates King Kong 2005, 2017 Skull Island, GVK Kong with Battle Axe, the Mezco King Kong with Skull Island, and the NECA Kong original release. So let's go ahead and round out accessories for the bunch. He, as I bought him, did not come with any accessories. I know he came in like a set or something, but on his own, he doesn't have much. Except for a gimmick. Right here, you'll see a button. If you raise up his arms, it only works on one arm nowadays, sadly. I mean, this figure's like, what, 20 years old now? So, unfortunately, his gimmick doesn't directly work. But that's pretty much what he comes with. Playmates Skull Island Kong comes with nothing. That's right. Basically, no battle damage, no accessories, nothing. Now, it is true that it did come. There was another release that came later, called the Ferocious Kong, and that had like a fully articulated body, new accessories with a boat and chain propeller and such, and actually came with battle damage. But that's not what we're taking a look at. This is what we are taking a look at, and he doesn't have really much of any of that. He doesn't have anything. No gimmicks, no nothing. Playmates Kong, GVK, comes with his battle axe and a piece of battle damage. I don't feel like I need to really showcase that because that's been like, what, the 500th time that I've taken a look at the battle damage and accessories for this guy. Mezco King Kong of Skull Island. Same kind of deal. Actually comes with a bunch of accessories, which I put in a little baggie. So it comes with an alternate roaring face. This is the standard one I had in the original videos. Here we have Andaro. It's for him to hold. Speaking of holding, little tiny grip in hand. He has the splayed out hands on, but also does come with a pair of clenched fists. And also comes with some chain shackles, which are done a lot better than the Skull Island Kong from NECA. And speaking of NECA, he comes with an alternate head. Out of the box, you get the 1933 head, but here you get an interchangeable like roaring face, which is a different design of Kong. And here you get some splayed hands that like you can make him like slap or like grab or something. It's not necessarily the best grabbing hand, and like it's not even a grabbing hand because who grabs things like this? That's like you're reaching out to grab, not you're actually grabbing. So that's all the NECA Kong comes with. Honestly, I think I'm going to have to give the point to the Mezco again, just because he comes with, like, the most bang for your buck, and while the NECA does come with some cool stuff, the Playmates comes with some cool stuff, and the Playmates 2005 has a cool gimmick, he comes with nothing. It's not enough to really warrant any points, given the fact that he comes with the most variety and the most accessories. So, point would go to the Mezco Kong. Round 5 is price. Now, basically speaking, we're going to go with MSRP. Let's start with the Playmates Kongs. He, because he was in a set, I think retail for about $20 to $30 at release. Not bad given the quality of the figure and given the circumstances he was made in back in 2005 or something. The Playmates Godzilla, the Kong Skull Island figure original release pretty much retailed for about $12. And yeah, that's really all he came for. He retailed for about $10, which is just a teensy bit cheaper than him. This guy was about like $30-$40, and this guy is about 20. So really, as far as like the cheapest, it's him. Like, he's barely edges out him. He's half the price he is. Like a fourth of the price he is, or like a quarter of the price he is, and half the price he is. So really, as far as like MSRP cheapest goes, it's him. But price isn't everything when we're talking about availability, and this is kind of where the gears tend to shift a little bit, even if it's a mild slight of a bit. Let's talk about the 2005 Kong. You're at the mercy of the aftermarket. Pretty much. There's like a ton of different variations of this guy, like tons that like beat their chest, and like tons that like there's like giant versions and smaller versions and stuff that come with like dinosaurs and all the V-Rexes and the creatures of Skull Island alike. But if you want this specific one, you might have to pay a bit more. I paid like $30 for this thing and it was perfectly fine with it. So essentially he's available at like any other secondhand markets. He is kind of more or less falling into that same range because he is no longer being made. Because there was a better figure that was pretty much out, like, not a reissue because they're not the same figure, not by a long shot, they're just the same character. That's literally all they have in common. And it comes with a lot more, so there's really, like, no actual go in and get out type thing with like him at Walmart's anymore unless they're on clearance, which I don't think they are, because remember, Kong's a popular character. They would snag him up for like, good amounts. He was pretty much at every major retailer. Although, again, for the time being, at least for the time being, they're taking a pause on the MonsterVerse figures in exclusively for GXK. And I know it's technically a separate figure because it's literally a new sculpt, but Playmates recently announced that they would be doing a Beast Gloveless version of this Kong with the battle axe. So, essentially, it's a successor to him in some way, shape, or form. Getting it back to the major retailers, and essentially, they pulled a him where they do a much better version. Because I've already compared them. I might do an individual video for it, but this guy blows him completely out of the water as far as like sheer quality goes. The Mezco, pretty much a comic book shop, kind of like collectible store, hobby store type figure. So you're not going to see this guy at major retailers, but you are going to be able to buy him at Mezco's website, I do believe. And you can't get him on like Big Bad Toy Store and all the other fancy schmancy sites that sell Kong figures and such. And the NECA Kong pretty much like outweighs everyone, because even nowadays, like, NECA has no licensor. They are the licensee. They are the ones who control this Kong because he's public domain, and they're allowed to sell this guy as much as he want, much as they want, where they want, and how they want. Universal, Legendary, Warner Brothers, they can't do a single thing. So, essentially, this Kong, I know he's off camera, but he's available pretty much anywhere. So, yeah. Pretty much available everywhere. So it's oddly enough, I think he wins. Yeah, even despite the Playmates' mass production, these guys are technically paused. I don't think he's coming back, and you're not coming back at all. So, as far as like sheer consistency, June 2024, he wins. And the last section is packaging. Now, here's the thing. I don't have any of these guys' boxes anymore. Well, actually, that's a complete lie. I have all of these guys' boxes, but I got him loose. So, essentially speaking, these two came in open boxes, and I believe him, and him all came in closed boxes. So really, pick your poison type thing, as far as like the collector experience goes, since these guys are much more younger age demographic wise, it's either him or him. I would honestly go with the NECA Kong, just because you can actually select between it's a closed like door type flap. So yeah, that's pretty much what's up. And so that wraps this video up. Over a year in the making. Oh boy. Well, let's like really analyze this. Honestly, when it comes to the winner, there really is no winner. I know we did a point thing, but because of today's now, I guess, figure comparisons, there will not be a winner. Because the winner is up to you. Which of these Kong figures do you think deserves to be in your collection? Maybe you already have all these. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want the one figure. In my opinion, I gotta go with one of these two. While it is true that these three are great, like quality-wise at least, they're not the best quality. They're great, but not the best. These two are gonna satisfy all your Kong needs. Neat and posable, accessory overload. That's what I determined. But these three for playtime, maybe not so much. So maybe a lot. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys liked it, definitely subscribe to the channel. Believe in Jesus, accept him as the Lord, Savior, spread the gospel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone. God bless.